we go. This is a good one. I swore never to be silent whenever and wherever human beings endure suffering and humiliation. We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. Eli Wiesel, born 1928. We have heard it said that the program is circular. Steps 1 to 12, back to 1, and so on. Also true is that step 12 is a springboard to the study and practice of the traditions. From there, we seek opportunities for service and stewardship in and beyond our fellowship. All anonymous fellowships have done a great deal to convert predatory, narcissistic, self-destructive addicts into useful contributors to society. Not to say that there aren't other means of recovery equal to the task. Once we become whole, we become useful again. If we are grateful, we will easily find a chance to pay it forward. Causes and injustices will present themselves to us and encourage us to get our heads out of our asses and engage in lives of service. Recovery brings a humble, clear-thinking approach to life's woes. We may intuitively know what the right thing to do is. Like the Nobel Peace Prize winner and Holocaust survivor quoted above, we will know what side to take and when to speak up. Our fellowship ought never be drawn into controversy, but there is a time and place for us as individuals to stand and be counted. In developing the habit of being compassionate, we become more aware of our surroundings. Resignation is the greatest adversary to usefulness. We should never say, "What's the use?" or "It's not my battle," or "What good could I do?" When we know in our hearts that it would be wrong to turn away and say nothing. Looking at my progress in recovery, can I see where I have become more of a giver than a taker? Do I see how my own special traits and principles bring value to the world around me? Do I know what I am prepared to stand up for in and out of the fellowship? There is a lot here. I have to say that being able to stand up and talk and voice my opinion, you've seen my growth. If you've seen anything in earlier years when I first started out, all I could do was read. I could not even be able to express myself because I didn't even know who I was. And then when I started to gain footing and be able to see the things around me without a certain deity that held me in this like prison vice-like way of thinking. And as I let it go, and little by little let those thoughts go and stop strangulating my growth, it made it so much more easier to be able to express myself without fear. That is why I do what I do, because I think it's so important for people to hear other people talk. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I am a woman of color. I had a narcissistic mother. I had a narcissistic cult group that I grew up in. I mean, it was almost impossible to be able to even know who I was when I first came out of this cult, the company of the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society. And so I think it was really hard to be able to express myself. And I'm so very grateful that if all that I could do was read, it was a way to still express myself. And to be honest, I had never gone through Courage to Change book. My dad had given me that book. And then the Inner Child book was all my mother. So my mom had been molested, my father was an alcoholic, and my mother was a rager. So it was hard to be able to even get on camera and be able to voice anything. I had no, and I still have a lot of growing to do. And that will continue until the day that I die. Growth. I saw that recovery for me meant something different when I went to Al-Anon, because for me it was still very uncomfortable because of the God issue that they have. They still put God in the picture. But I was determined to understand why people do things that are still very much addictive. And I would say that maybe I didn't drink and I didn't take drugs, but I saw so many bad habits growing up. And I saw so many reasons why I needed to continue to go to Al-Anon. And I do believe that being neutral helps the oppressor, and that's dangerous. And I never wanted to help anymore the people that are doing things that are wrong, that I can see that are destructive to another human spirit. So I try and keep my girls as active as possible with me. They have their own minds. I really do think that they wish I would shut up. Because, Mom, you're so embarrassing, and why can't we just move on? But there's a lot of young kids out there that are suffering because their parents are so harsh and destructive. And let me tell you, as a mom, I mean, I see things on Reddit that 18-year-olds are going through right now because they're trying to figure out their sexuality in a cult that is so dangerous. And it's scary because these kids will kill themselves, and people will kill themselves because they believe in this God that would destroy them. And that is so very destructive to a child. And I grew up in that. I know what that feels like. I know how my whole life was molded by this belief system. No education, no voicing of opinion to men that dictate your whole life. Your whole life is changed. And you would choose differently if you knew you could. So, yeah, causes and injustices will present themselves to us and encourage us to get our heads out of our own asses and engage in lives of service. And so, as baptized Jehovah's Witnesses at 18 years old, my purpose was to help human beings. And I still want to do that. I still want to be able to help people. And if it's my bad experience that can help someone else, that the pain that I've gone through and the suffering that I've gone through when it came to people who did commit suicide because of being in the cult, then I will do it. If it's voicing my opinion so that it can help someone else to get the chains off of their brains and survive and move on and grow into something that they want to be. They don't want to have this rigid belief system, but they want to grow into something different. And to know other people out there have done that, and that we have your back, that we understand, that we want you to grow. We want you to grow into something that is not allowed in a cult, and especially children. And parents that have kids that are, you know that your kid isn't going to be defined by this mindset. You can tell that they're fighting it. To let them go, let them be who they are. And there's other parents out there that are allowing our children to do what they want. That is growth as a human race, as a culture. That is important for our children. so that they can be stronger human beings, to be more helpful to society. That is especially for women, because in our cult, we are not allowed to do that. So, yeah, I like Eli Wiesel. I haven't read all his book, but I have read portions of it, and he's been very helpful to people in recovery and people who have a mindset that is different, which is to be more helpful and be of service to humanity. So if he hadn't spoken out, we wouldn't know some of the crimes that have happened to large groups, a large group of people and large groups of people, and the importance of not shriveling up and dying and just being resigned to the fact that things don't feel like they're going to change. To say something, to do something, right? And developing the habit of being compassionate. We become more aware of our surroundings. Resignation is the greatest adversary to usefulness, right? To be resigned to the fact that it's never going to change. We should never say, what's the use? Or it's not my battle, or what good can I do? When we know in our hearts that it would be wrong to turn away and say nothing. I think that for so many years, that's exactly what the organization, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society have used, is the resignation that it's just a wall of people that don't ever want to hear, or they have set groups like of people who don't agree with how they treat people, right? They've made it so that they can't talk to us. But I think that the wall is little by little, it's getting smaller and smaller, because the impact of people that talk about what happens on the inside to people on the inside that disagree with how they're being treated, right? That it's little by little, that wall is coming to a point where, there was a thickness, there was a barrier there. And now because of YouTube, that barrier is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And that wall that they've put up, right, so that people couldn't talk to you, is coming down. And we tell our experiences. And how the importance of making sure that we speak up. And if you can do a better job than me, please, I encourage you, yes, put that YouTube channel up. Get your voice heard. It's how people understand what we've gone through as individuals inside a cult, and what it feels like to see your family members being disfellowshipped. One of the most liberating things I could have done in this particular cult was go before the elders and say, I don't want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Look at all the horrible things that are in this organization. And that was for me. That had nothing to do with them. Had nothing to do with being answering to the organization or trying to get my points heard, because I kind of knew that it was going to hit deaf ears. It was for my healing. I realized the importance of doing that because it would help me stand up stronger. And I think if I hadn't read Frederick Douglass and his book, and the importance of standing up to the overseers, and especially if you were a slave, standing up to them and saying, hey, you want to do this? Fine, but I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight it 100%. So yeah, I was going to fight what I had seen that was destructive. And at the time, my mother was alive. She wasn't dead yet. And I was grateful that I could go to her and tell her, hey, I am going to disassociate myself as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. That was power back to me, especially to a mother who was very abusive emotionally. And she used the organization to be abusive. And I look back now and I see that. But it took a lot of time and a lot of tears and a lot of... I didn't see it as quickly. I had to get out of all of it. Being in a destructive cult, recognizing where I was mentally and how God put me in a very dangerous position listening to men and seeing men as the answer, and or giving us the answers. No, I didn't need to do that anymore, and I could be active in my own recovery, that I could have my own opinion about my belief system. It made it much easier as I grew into who I am and what I'm learning about myself now, because I can't say that it's totally, I can't say that I'm 100%, right? I'd say I'm like 65% maybe, and then sometimes I go 50, and then I 65 it, and then I go 50, and it's just growth. And that comes with time and patience. It's rough. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it's totally well worth it. It's well worth it, and you become much stronger for it, even through the sadnesses that you see and the resignation that you have to have. You have to just resign yourself to the fact that some people are not going to change. They will never change. So, yeah. But that doesn't mean that you don't, that you can't grow, and that you can't grow without them, or without what they feel you need in your life to grow. No, you can grow, and you can become stronger. So I hope this helps you on your healing journey. Follow your bliss and be good humans.